You asked me and I deliver. Today we are going to learn every single bit about pathing in Planet Zoo. But this is obviously not going to make the pathing in this game better, but it will make you able to master the terrain and pathing and everything in this game to become a master of pathing in a game where, to be fair, the pathing options per default are not the greatest. However, I'm gonna teach you all the little things you need to know, and this is by far my most complete pathing tutorial. So this, what you see over here, is a park I did with a mega tutorial. We did this in 3.5 hours without any cuts. If you want to see this, it is linked to the top right now and you can check this out. But if you only are here for the path, let's get started. So let's start with the basics. As you can see, I'm in the path menu, which is down here to the bottom right next to terrain. And if you open it, you're greeted with 3 different tabs. The first of it is going to be path. The second of it is going to be queue. We can mostly skip this because you're not going to have that many rides in your park anyways. But if you have, these are the queue rides, path. And then we've got staff path, which obviously is the path only for our staff members. Very simple. However, all of these paths do work the same way, kind of, but more about that later. Now, if we start with the normal path, you can see there are several options, a lot of different variants of the path, and we can now utilize them to basically just plop them down, as you can see, like that. So this is just simply how you build a path. Bam, there you go. Okay, this is easy. However, if you want to delete the path, there are 2 ways of deleting the path. Actually 3. Let's find out the most complicated one. You go to this button over here and then you select click like this. A second option is, and I'm gonna redo this real quick so you can see that. A second option, and that is a super simple one, is right clicking on these elements and then they are gone. And there is one more option. You basically hold down the delete key and then you just drag over the path and they're all gone. So this is very, very simple. Now there are a couple of controls over here to the right hand side of your path, and with those controls you can change a couple of things about the pathing. Now the angle snap over here that is turned on is something that is very simple. So if you build something, you can see it's snapping to 11.25 degrees. We can even drag this down to 0 and then nothing happens, as you can see, or we go all the way to 45 and then you can see it's jumping in like 45 degrees. Relatively simple to understand. If you do not want this, you just basically click spacebar and then the toggle is gone and you can basically freeform put down your path as you want. In case you don't know about the redo undo, with Control Z and Control Y, you can redo undo your pathing and everything you did in the game. Very handy to use these hotkeys. Now the next bit is length and width over here. And I'm going to teach you the hotkeys right away because otherwise this is going to be too complicated. Now if you put down the path, you can see you drag with your arrow or your cursor around. As you can see, you drag around, and when you press the little plus icon on your screen, on your keyboard, which is 2 buttons next to your P if you're international, or for the European German ones it's next to the Ü on the right hand side, and then if you click you just increase the width of it, and if you click basically on the left key next to it, you decrease the width. It's going all the way from 4 meters to all the way up to 10 meters. And if you want to do the same with the length, you can just basically do the same by the button which is right above the plus key. In my case, this is the upper level semicolon or comma or whatever you want to call that one, below the F12 key, or for those of you who have shorter or smaller keyboards, it's basically the same as the F12 key. And then if you do this, you can increase it, and then the next one next to it, which is the question mark or the backslash, you can decrease the length. That is pretty simple, very easy to understand. Now there are a couple of camera modi you can use while building. I will basically say keep it always to the move freely, because this is the way how you move your camera anyways, and it's not gonna annoyingly follow you. So there's the last option, which is align to grid, and this one is going to be a bit more important once we build plazas, but I'm just going to quickly show you. If you click align to grid and you hover over a path, you can see there is a grid appearing. And this grid will allow you to build on these prefix grids. You can see the orientation of the grid now is this way, but if we deselect that and we build a piece in this direction, and we do the same thing again, you can see it follows the orientation of those two pieces you've just put down. If you put down a third one and you just rotate that a little bit different, you can see the orientation changes, you know, depending on which of those items you want to start with, okay? So in this case, we're just going to do this, and then you can see while building, you're just creating a plaza within the grid. And the grid is actually going to be a bit bigger. You can just go outside of the boundaries if you want to. And you can also select the square edges, which I have activated on default, but I would highly recommend to use that too, because I'm going to show you some tricks why this is important. But if you don't want to, you can also deselect that and you get some round edges, as you can see over here. But for the tricks I'm going to teach you later, you will need the square edges a bit more. So that is what we do. So this is relatively simple. This way you build a relatively huge plaza in no time. You can obviously also do this with bigger pieces, but this is something we don't need. So let me just quickly get rid of the plaza over here. So that was that, very simple. And there's one more hotkey I want to show you, which you've learned now, the two hotkeys for increase the length and decrease the length, the same as width. And you can also toggle between the different textures if you hit the hashtag key. And if you want to go back, it's the key left to the hashtag. You can go back through the menu with all the textures. This, by the way, works with all the pieces and all the menus, which is sometimes very handy if you just want to quickly switch between some of the pieces. Okay, now this was the basics of path building. Now let's get a bit more into detail. How do you build a staircase, for example, or how do you go down? Now, before we do this, there is a little settings icon over here, which we have to go through as well. Because if you don't know these controls, understanding other things will be kind of heavy. Now, flatten terrain is very simple. You just build this and it will flatten the terrain. It's not easy to see over here, so I'm just going to drag this terrain a little bit down over here so you can see that a bit better. And now as we've enabled flatten terrain, you'll see that it will automatically just bulldoze over here and flatten the terrain to whatever height you were. Now, if we don't do this, you can see, oops, let me just disable that. You can see it's going down and now you can't go any further. However, if you turn on tunneling, you will see that automatically the game switches the mode, and now you can automatically put this down. And what this mode does, it basically just destroys all the terrain around you. So you can basically build free if you want to, because the game will always just get rid of all these terrain elements around the pathing. It's gonna look a lot more ugly than I remembered, but yeah, I wouldn't necessarily do that anyways, because I will show you some more tricks. Now, we were talking about this. How do we get the path up and down? Well, that is simple. You hold down the shift key and then you can see, once you do that, you can see around your path, the curb is basically appearing. If you go all the way down, it's gone. And if you drag your mouse higher, it's appearing, as you can see, like that. You know, it's very simple. You drag it up, you drag it down, up and down. Very simple. Now, if we enable the path supports, you will see after a certain height and you build something, boom, there is a path support. Sometimes if you just want to build a bridge, it looks kind of cool and the path will align properly after building. You know, it's going to be some, I'm not sure if there's anything static related going on there, but sometimes you just have some path support. Okay, now more of these other things down here we are going to talk about later, because now I'm going to show you how you build a staircase, and that is relatively simple too. You're just going to build this one click, and then if you want to go and build a staircase, you just hold down the left mouse key like that, and then you can see the cursor icon changes into an up and down arrow, and now you just drag up, and there you go. There are two different angles. The first one is going to be, oh my god, we got a spot fine, whatever. The first one is this relatively shallow one, which doesn't create a staircase, it just creates a ramp. And if you go one higher, you have the staircase, and if you release that, you can basically build a staircase to heaven, but you can always adjust the height by just dragging up and down. Super simple. Once you have a level terrain again, it'll automatically allow you to build a rotation again, or a turn. So I'm just gonna do the exact same here to the other side so you can see the trick. There you go. Everything is built very simple. But what if you want to build a curved staircase? Well, that is also very simple. We're just going to do the exact same, but now we have to enable curved slopes. And now we go up. And as you can see, now I'm going to release this. There is an option to build a curved slope. Obviously, as we have enabled the 45 degrees, it only allows you by 45 degrees. But if you go lower to like 15 degrees, we can now build a 15-degree rotated staircase, or ramp in this case. If you want to do like a staircase, you just drag one higher and then you can just keep on doing what you want to do. Very, very, very simple, okay? So there's not really that much to know about. Well, I'm gonna delete all of this again. Very simple stuff, okay? So there's nothing really too complicated between this. There's another way to get two pieces to create an incline between those. And this one goes also relatively easy. You basically just put one down on the ground, and what you want to do then is you hold down Control, because Control will allow you to put down a piece without it connecting automatically. So if you drag it away a little, it's gonna release the connection. If I do not do this, you can see you can't really create another one. If you hold down Control, you can have another starting point. And then at the same time as you hold down Control, you're going to hold down Shift as well. And then you can drag it up, and now you release. You basically release the Shift key, and it's going to remain at the same height you were. And then you can go closer to where you wanted your path. You can see now it's turning red because you can't be that high above a path. You're not high enough. But if I go a little bit lower like so, and I'm going to put this down. And now what you want to do is, first of all, you are going to disable the angle snap. And then sometimes, okay, in this case, it's a little bit finicky because, oops, there you go. Sometimes you just need another node. Okay, so this is a bit more complicated. You've got these two nodes, and now, as I've got deactivated the angle snap, and I also created a second node, because that's something you have to do sometimes, it just kind of notices that the game has two different starting points and auto connects those two together. So we can basically do this again, just so you see that. Put one here, and what we want to do is we're going to put another one, and you can basically see I'm just going to do like a very subtle change. And now, as you can see, whoops, there you go, it's automatically creating a connection. And sometimes you can see there is like this little ugly connection in between, and this time around what we could do is deleting the pieces in between. Okay, that didn't work. To try to smooth that out. Sometimes it works. There you go. I've seen basically just to highlight that, okay? In this specific case, we've got 4 different pieces, if you will. So this on the left is one piece, that one is one piece, that one is a piece, and that one is a piece. Between those 4 pieces, there is this incline created. But what we want between here in the center, only one piece to make a smoother one. So I'm going to delete this one and just reconnect, and whoops, there you go. And you can see my ramp is a lot more smooth between those 2 points. Now we only have basically 3 pieces. 1, 2, 3. So that's a way of simply creating incline staircases and stuff. Just to show you, you can obviously also do the same with the stair, and you just have to be a little bit higher between the 2, and then it automatically creates a stair. So the game will notice at which height you are able to create a certain stair or ramp. So if I'm gonna put this connection here and move away with the mouse, you can see there is a connection, and now you can also control in which direction you want to have the connection. So I want to have it here, and now I'm just going to release this piece again, move it a fraction away, and there you can see it. Now you have created a perfect joint between all of these. Speaking of joints, there's one more thing I need to show you. If we stay to the ground and we just build a normal path over here, like so, you can obviously join the pieces. Very simple. You can see the game automatically creates this wonderful join for you. However, what you need to do sometimes is you hold down Y, and if you hold down Y, Z in my case, you will see that the connection between those 2 changes. Now this one over here is very smooth. If you hold down the Y key or Z key, depends on which keyboard you are at, it will always stay 90 degrees to your path. Sometimes this is good if you want to create like a nice little connection, and it's gonna come in handy for a little trick I'm gonna show you in a minute. So also let me just quickly pause the game because all the protesters and stuff are just going to annoy me. Now, just to create a joint like that, you can see Very simple. I'm just going to create one like so, and I'm going to create another one with the 90 degrees. So here you can see the difference. This one creates like a perfect joint in the direction of how we put the path together, and that one is always going to be 90-degree connected to your path. So that is very much all you need to know for the basics. Now we step forward into the advanced stuff, and I'm gonna start with the most common trick, and this is the smoothing. And therefore I'm just going to build a new path area. Just sometimes it doesn't matter how exactly we do this, just like so, just creating a couple of intersections here. There you go. Now you can see this is a normal kind of path flow, however you want to see this. And what you can see now, for example, this bit over here would be nicer if we have like a smooth edge, right? But there's like this little harsh cut in here we just simply don't want. The same goes over here. So both would be nicer if they have a nice flow. What you can do, you go exactly in this corner, like in this edge you don't like. Make sure you have angle snap deactivated, and also flatten terrain and tunneling is disabled. And now you go exactly into the edge, and also make sure to always use the smallest width, in my case 4 meters. Then you place this down. And hold on, don't do anything else. You just place that down and you immediately delete this again. But very important, you do not undo it. You have to actively delete it with right click. That's very important. Right click to delete. Just go to this tiny piece, like this tiny connection, and delete it. And boom, you can see it's smoothed out. This is basically a bug that exists from the very early days of Planet Coaster, and people have used this or abused this to create smoother paths or path areas, and they've never fixed it because it became a feature. Now, we can do the same over here. Just go into that corner, delete it, smoothed out. Look at that, how nice it now looks, like almost like a little Z. I'm gonna leave that because I think it's looking good. I think it's looking fine. Okay. Now we go to a next level trick. This one is a trick I came across while doing this tutorial, and this one is going to be very simple. Now we're going to do the terrain, and I'm just going to go and keep this one lower down because this is exactly what you want to do. And make sure that you have like a very sharp edge, okay? So the sharp edge is very important. Now what you want to do, you want to have a ramp between those two areas, right? This, you can't put a one over here, this looks ugly. But what you want to have is you want to have a path up here and one here that connects. What is very important now is that you guys always keep in mind to build this in a 90-degree angle to the actual angle you want to build. So let's say we want to build this. I'm just going to use the terrain tool over here. Let's say we want to build the path like this, okay? So this is where the ramp should go down. What you now have to do is you have to build the path like so. This is it, okay? So try to be very much in the center, so that makes your life a lot more easy. And then you do the exact same up here too. Again, use the smallest path you have, and then it's also important to just make it a little longer so you have a bit more easy use of creating a connection like that. So down here, it's a little bit more complicated. So what I will do to, sometimes you just can't do that because you need to have more pieces to create this section down here. So what I want to do now is I want to basically get rid of these and just gonna try to make the whole thing a little longer. Let's see if we can somehow squeeze in 3. Okay, if not, you're just gonna make the terrain a little bit more. Oops, that is not what I wanted to. I'm gonna use the sampled and make that a little bigger. There we go, and just dig down here a little more. Same goes the other. You can also raise the terrain later on again. It may seem a little complicated what we are doing over here, but trust me, it's not. It's very much not. So it's very important, as I said, that we just create this like so. Let's see if I can finally. I can't, so I'm gonna align this to the grid. Can I do this like so? I can, and do the same here. That will make things a lot more easy. And now you've seen we can create a connection between those two. Basically, what you want to do is these two connections you've now created are very important because now you can see you can't connect those two. But the moment you enable now flattened terrain, the game will basically allow you to connect those two pieces. Sometimes, in this case over here, you have to increase the length a little. Let's say 2. And there you can see the game automatically looks for the next connection point, which we have created up here. So now if you click, boom, the game auto smoothes the terrain and creates a perfect path over here. The beauty of this is it also works, and this is kind of cool. It also works sometimes with a different connection. As you can see over here, it also makes curved path. Sometimes you just need to search for it, like for example this one. Boom and boom. Look, now you have created these wonderful subtle declines into this area, and it's looking beautiful. And to create this without this technique, it is super fiddly and problematic sometimes. So this is definitely something I recommend trying out yourself, and get this into your workflow, because it really, really changes the way how you can deal with different inclines and stuff. You can see obviously terrain leveling normally only allows you to, level terrain. But if you've got two connection pieces that join together, it's creating this wonderful ramp. It is absolutely amazing. However, there is even more to it. We can make smaller pathways than only 4 meters, because the queue comes with 3 meters and even 2 meters of path. As you can see, this is 2 meters, and oops, come on over here. This is, let's put that next to it, so it's, well, no, just 1, 2, 3. There you can see it. It's definitely different, 2, 3, and 4 meters. And honestly, sometimes you just want to have like a little path meandering through a different area. Now, probably you think, how the hell would I do this? Well, without mods, it's a little bit of a complicated thing to do, but you can still do this. And the reason why it's complicated is very simple. The game doesn't want you to do this, but you still can. Now, if you want to have a 3-meter connection, for example, between here, let's say you want to have like a little garden path. Actually, let's do it with a 2-meter path. You need 2 different connections. One connection goes over here, and now it's very important that you don't build this, okay? You just go over and just try to go away, and now you have to be very careful to create another connection on the other side. And sometimes it works the best way when you move your camera a little, and let's create that one over here. So now the game doesn't connect those two, because a queue cannot connect with a path directly, because the queue always wants to go from path to station, from path to station, from station to path. But if we switch over to normal path again, the game will connect, because it looks, again, it's basically the same fundamentals like over here and the same fundamentals like over here. The game always looks for the 2 paths to auto connect, and this is what you basically benefit from over here. And now you can, for example, choose a different path, and boom, there you go. You just created a wonderful little path connecting those 2 areas. And let's say if you want to, for example, do that again with the flatten still enabled. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Let's just try to move that around a little. Hello, is that 2 meters still activated? Oh yeah, that's why. Okay, sometimes you just want to, disable that. Let's do it that way. And now I want to connect from here to here, again with a 2-meter path. Or let's, for this time, let's do a 3-meter path. You just again go here, create a connection over there. As you can see, the game now tries to connect, but it creates 2 different entrances and then notices, nah, that's not gonna work. That's just not gonna work. And so this is how you see that. Okay, well, actively you can't process this, but what you can do again is just go through here and only create the joint, create the connector. There you go, you created that, and then you go down here together, and boom, there you go. Very simple. And now once you've created these, you can use the same technique of smoothing, just very simple like that. So see that? There you go. And you smooth that out. It is actually, once you understood the fundamentals, you can do so many things. And if you now combine all these things together, you will be able to create these plazas like I did over here. Very, very simple. You can see this is where I used this wonderful technique with the ramp. Over here, I did smooth out so many things, and if then there is an area what you're not very happy with, you can just basically do this and just cover it up with some plants, with some foliage, with some shrubbery. It's really, it comes down to your usage rather than the problematics of this game. So just as a little summary, you can do everything with the path that you want. However, you need to be a little bit more creative, and you have to basically always keep in mind smoothing and auto connect. These two things will help you create the most beautiful pathings you can do in this game, and will also help you to create very nice inclines, declines, staircases, whatever you can imagine. This is very much everything you need to know. As I promised though, before we really end this, I'm gonna go through the last little options we have over here, because there were a couple of more options, but they are, well, very dead simple, okay? I'm just gonna build a path over here to show you. Now, the first thing we have is the curb on ground path. That is just creating this wonderful curbing around here. I'm not the biggest fan of it, to be honest, because then it makes covering up things very hard, but whatever. Then we also have the railing on ground queue, as you can see, is on queue. Let me just show you the railing on ground path if we have it. Railing on ground path, there you can see. Then you not only have the curb, but you also have like a wonderful railing around. Then we also have an option that is called railing on elevated, which, as you can guess, as soon as you elevate something, it's gonna have a railing. Very simple. And you can also disable that and whatever. So it's very, very simple to understand once you have these things. Unfortunately, there are no hotkeys for these things. However, there is a couple more things we need to talk about, and I saved the best for the last, so to say. First of all, snap alongside barriers is also very simple. Let me just quickly show you. It's basically doing what you could expect. So let's do that. We build a barrier, and now you go to path, and then you say snap to alongside barriers, and you can see, whoops, am I too close here? Wait a sec. There you go. It's snapping automatically alongside the barrier. So I didn't keep it straight. It basically was snapping alongside this area. You can see it's almost like magnetic. I can't push over here. So that's what it's doing. I really, personally, I always build path first, and then I put the barrier around this later. I feel like this is the best way of doing it, but if you do it the other way around, it's also totally fine. And now we have the use T junction while joining path. This is what I explained already. This is by holding down the Y key, or releasing that. As I said, this is what we did over here. It's the same function with the T junction, or basically, as I said, 90-degree junction. Just to keep you informed about the fact that sometimes it helps out smoothing better. So if you've got a 90-degree angle and just build that further out, the smoothing becomes a bit more simple, as you can see. However, only on the outside of the path. The inside then is very hard to do, but you still can do it, as you can see. It's, you know, it's nothing major, but it just can help sometimes. I didn't find it like game changing. It both works. Sometimes it's, well, finicky the one way or the other, but it's still working. Now, the last thing is we have an elevated length change, and this one comes in super handy if you're building in very tight spaces and you do not want to use this technique over here we used. You can do the following. Now, if you place one thing down, and we do the exact same as we talked about earlier, you just create an incline like that. What you can do now is you can decrease the length of this piece by just moving this down, and you can see now the piece is very tiny. It's super, super tiny. And now as we, oops, I wanted to disable the curved slopes. There you go. And now you build these tiny pieces. Well, why are these tiny pieces important? Well, if you remember what we've talked about, the game always looks for autoconnect. This gives you control over a bit more autoconnect. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by that. So once you create this, you can do something like so. Go too high up, one down, too high, one down, too high, one down, too high, one down. Why do I say too high? Basically because the staircase is a little bit higher, and you can see now it creates this very subtle effect. Now let's just create a couple more. And now you can not only delete one piece, you can delete multiple pieces in between. And if we've done that, you just disable this again. And now the game magic will again try to auto-connect, and you've got a very subtle ramp. And now is a direct comparison. You can see it is less inclined than, or less sloped than the game default one is. As you can see over here, the game default one for me personally is a tad bit too much. As you can see, this one is already pretty angled, you know, that's not really good for wheelchairs or strollers. I mean, that one isn't either, but with the same technique I used over here, you can make it even more subtle by just going up and down a bit more with these little pieces. And that way you can also create better ramps, curved ramps and stuff like that. it is actually super simple once you understood that. The one thing I have to say, it is not easy. It's simple to understand, it is simple to do in the way while clicking, but it's not easy. It takes time, it's annoying. Sometimes the game, even though you master it, sometimes the game just doesn't want you to do exactly what you need to do, and then you just have to redo this and retry this. But I have to say, and as many people think that this path system may be the weakest point of the game, I do agree and I do disagree at the same time. I do agree in a way that potentially this is the best, one of the bestest fixes you can do with a better path system. However, I don't have the feeling that the path system breaks the game in a way, because you still can do everything with the game's path system that you want. You can make huge plazas, you can nice meandering paths, you can make slopes, you can make wide and narrow paths, you can do basically everything you want. It is just a little bit too complicated per default. That's the one thing you do. But it's not like it's not like a lion that needs a remaster, or it's not like not having birds. See what I mean? And this is why I don't think it's a game-breaking problem, but it still would need a lot more refinement. However, now, as we're at the end of this tutorial, you master the pathing. There is everything I know I taught you in this one, and if there's anything more you can teach me, well, let me know in the comments down below. And one reminder as always, if you need any DLC of this game or any other game, there is a linky to Instant Gaming in the description, and you can also take part in a giveaway that I have always running on Instant Gaming. So if you're on my Discord channel, just click the link in the description too. There is a channel for Instant Gaming, and you can enter a giveaway, and if you're the lucky one, you can basically get yourself the game you want at the end of the month, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and if you just need any DLC, you always get them for a great value. Okay, so this is the easiest way to thank me, by the way. If this tutorial was helpful for you and you want to do me a favor, well, liking and so on is fine, but if you buy something via my link, you do me a favor and you get yourself something cool. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope you guys found this helpful. I had a lot of fun doing this, so yeah, I talk to you in the next one. And if you need any other tutorial that I didn't cover in this mega 3-hour tutorial, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much, and goodbye.